Welcome back. In this lesson, you're going to be given word problems to solve by creating functions. Understanding functions allows you to solve much harder and more generalized problems. It's very important to get practice combining everything you've learned so far, such as control flow, loops, etc., with functions to become an effective programmer. Many recruits find this jump to solving generalized problems very difficult. So far, you've had a slow and steady increment in the skills you've been learning, but understanding functions gives you a big leap forward. This is sometimes known as a difficulty curve. So far, your progress in Python has been increasing steadily, as well as your capability to solve more and more difficult problems. However, once you learn about functions, you're going to have a huge jump in the level of problem difficulty that you're able to solve just by learning about functions. So when you have these new problems to solve, make sure you're patient with yourself as you begin to tackle on these harder problems. And a good piece of advice is to try to break down problem statements into smaller sub-problems that you can solve with either one line of code or just a few lines of code. Then you can combine those smaller solutions to a full functional solution. Remember to take advantage of useful resources for help, such as Stack Overflow. Many of the questions you're going to begin to encounter will be similar to other people's experiences in the past and will likely already have an easily searchable answer. Let's have an overview of your function tasks now. Remember to try your best on all of them, but if you ever get stuck, don't feel bad about looking at the solutions lesson coming up next. Often, seeing many examples of problems already solved for you helps in gaining those skills yourself. Let's quickly go over your actual tasks. Here are the tasks you're going to need to complete using functions, and as you can see, a basic skeleton of what the function should look like has been filled in for you in the problem description. If we take a look at the first example, your job is to create a function that takes in two integers and returns true if their sum is 10, false if their sum is something else. So here we have the skeleton code for you, def, the name of the function, and then the parameters it's going to accept, and your job is to fill in the actual code. And then below this, we'll have some example inputs and outputs. So 10 plus 0 should be true because their sum is 10. 5 plus 5 returns true, its sum is 10. 2 plus 7 does not equal 10, so we return false. So the basic idea is you'll have a task, some skeleton code to fill out, and then some example inputs and outputs, so you can tell whether or not you're on the right track. Task number 2 is to create a function that takes in two integers and returns true if their sum is 10, otherwise return the actual sum value. So note the difference here. If the sum is 10, we return true. If it's not 10, then we actually return the number. So sometimes you'll return the Boolean true, other times you're actually going to return the sum. Task number 3 is to create a function that takes in a string and returns back the first character of that string in uppercase. So here we see the string, hello, it returned back uppercase H, agent, it returns back capital A. Task 4 is to create a function that takes in a string and returns the last two characters. If there are less than two characters, you should return the string error, and there's a link here if you need a bit of a help or a hint. Here we can see last two, LO, last two of hi is hi, and here we can see we're passing in the string A, which has less than two characters, so we return back the string error. Task 5 is given a list of integers, return true if the sequence 1, 2, 3 is somewhere in that list. So you should use slicing and a for loop to check for this. For example, here we can see in this sequence 1, 2, 3, we have the sequence 1, 2, 3 inside of it, so we say true. In this sequence, somewhere in this list, 1, 2, 3 is in order here, so we say true. And in this sequence, we have a bunch of 1s, 2s, and 3s, but nowhere along the way do we actually have 1, 2, and 3 consecutively in a row, so we return false. Task number 6 is given two strings, create a function that returns the difference in length between them. This difference in length should always be a positive number or just 0. So as a hint, you may want to think about using absolute values. So we're comparing the length of this string and this string, so it's the exact same string, the length difference is 0. Difference between A and BB, the length difference is 1, and difference between BB and A, same way, the difference is 1. Task 7, given a list of integers, if the length of the list is an even number, return the sum of the list. If the length of the list is odd, return the max value in that list. So notice how you're going to have to check for the length of the list, and then you have two possibilities of the data type you're going to return. So we'll call this sum or max. Here, we actually take the max object because it only has 3 or odd element number. For even element number, we'll go ahead and sum up all the elements in it. Task 8 is, let's imagine we have agents in the field and they sometimes need to speak in code. So your job is to create a function that takes in a string name, such as James or Cindy, and replaces all the vowels with the letter X. For our purposes, consider these letters as vowels A, E, I, O, U. Then, additional to this, you need to switch the position of the first and last letters. So this task is challenging, so try to break it down into multiple pieces. We've actually already seen something pretty similar to this. We just are now adding on the idea of switching the position of the first and last letters. So here we can see that James, A and E are being replaced by X, and then we're switching around J and S. So you can see various examples here. All right, best of luck with these tasks. We'll see you in the next lesson where we go over the solutions.